Okay, welcome back, beautiful people. It is your girl.
Are you listening? Damn.
I think we were joking previously about like MySpace and the origins of social media. Like it's crazy how you end up being the kid in the office just always on social. And there was a point where agencies didn't even want you on social media if you're in the office. So now the
Yes,
crazy thing is,
exactly.
now they're like, okay, what do we do when we get onto social?
Now it's the starting point for every strategy. That's where you do your research. That's where you get content inspiration. So it's there's been a huge evolution.
No, definitely. And that leads us to the first question. Like, how have you seen the role of social media evolving for brand building specifically over the last 5 years?
Sure, it's gone from social media has gone from this thing that plugs into an integrated marketing or creative campaign to actually being something that you can't do without. Like it's becoming a core part of brand building, a core part of driving demand for reaching audiences, and also with the reality that we find ourselves with clients cutting their budgets and shifting around their scopes and their priorities, it's actually become like the key space or vehicle for meeting those marketing and business objectives, right? As opposed to just this little thing that you're supposed to tick when you're doing like an integrated campaign. So yeah,
No,
definitely gone from a nice to have to a you can't live without it.
can't do it out, right? That is so true because to get access to, especially the young audiences, your Gen Zers,
Yeah,
and all, get into their faces, you can't rely on traditional media as much as we used to. And yeah, it's
exactly.
really definitely taken the lead. So, how well rounded then does a social strategy look like?
Well, it has to be audience first, right? It has to be rooted in a very strong point of view from a brand perspective. There needs to be like a story that I'm trying to tell. And it also needs to be measurable and drive business impact, right? A lot of the times when we traditionally, social was either like a broadcast space, where you just try to get some awareness or something that you just limit to like engagement, but it's a full funnel activity, right? So it is important if you're going to have any longevity that you have a very keen understanding of your audience and draw majority of your content and strategic inspiration from that point or that space in your audience's heart. And then you also need to obviously have a strong story to tell from a brand perspective. And that's going to give you longevity from a content perspective, right? It's going to be the thing that drives your distinction. And you need to know what you want it for, right? Are you trying to build an army of advocates? Are you trying to drive demand and sales? Or are you trying to just educate? So I think those are the core things: audience first, story perspective, and very strong objective, making it measurable and assigning some sort of business value to it. How you do that, what ideas you employ, what trends, what part of your strategy comes alive. Obviously that's different depending on the how those three things are activated. But I
Yeah.
think those are the three core components.
No, that's very valuable. I think what I like that you mentioned is oftentimes I think brand managers don't see the bottom end of the funnel value of social media. It's like you said, it's always traditionally been a broadcasting space, but there is a way to generate leads and have like sales associated objectives when approaching social media. So I think that's a very important thing that does need to be also highlighted. So yeah, that was very interesting that you brought that up. But
Yeah,
I
and I
also,
mean,
yeah, so
you also have to look at like how things happen organically. Remember when K Yarms posted Dawn and then
mm,
clicks ran out because so like it's not just an awareness driver, it is a proper revenue driver, demand driver. So you can't at all like miss that part. of the importance of social.
Going back to the first point, right? It's a big part of brand building now. It's not just that broadcasting platform. Not
Exactly.
definitely. So then, when approaching, and I know you said audience first, but how then, with audience in consideration, do you prioritize the platforms that you will use? Because it's such a fragmented space now. It's no longer just MySpace, Facebook, and the 5 social media platforms. How do you then lean into prioritizing the platforms that you will leverage for your campaigns?
So I think the best starting point, it always starts with audience, right? And it's not just about where is the bulk of your audience. It is about what are they doing there, right? If my core objective is to move product and drive volume and consumption, then you need to prioritize platforms where your audience are engaged in action, where they discover products and where they sell and where they're influenced. If your primary objective is to build advocacy and conversation, then you're going to prioritize platforms where that is a core behavior of your audience set, right? If it is about being in culture and space of relevance, then you're going to prioritize platforms where your audience is behaving in that way. And behavior is different for different communities, right? So there are audience segments where their behavior, let's say for example, you have these very active Facebook groups where people are recommending products to one another, and they are engaging around reviews and things like that, right? And that is a space for that particular audience set where like a brand would say, okay, cool, this is where I need to be engaging with my audience, because on Facebook they really drive education, they really drive consideration, and they convert, and there's a lot of peer-to-peer recommendation happening in that space. For Gen Z, that's not happening there. It's happening on TikTok, right? So I can't have a blanket approach. It's always audience centric. And I think I also want to caution marketers, brand managers, even social media managers of just looking at, okay, let's look at the list in terms of platform usage. We see that WhatsApp's at the top. We've got Facebook. TikTok is like really dominating in the top 3. And therefore, those are our platforms, right? That's a macro view. It's not necessarily your specific audience segment view, right? So that changes according to category. The behavior shifts according to whether it's millennials or Gen Zs. So I'm not a fan of just jumping onto the trend of an emerging platform or just looking at consumption and usage, but really focusing on where is my audience doing what I want them to do, and then choosing like that.